One of the most interesting phenomenons of human beings is our creativity, right? I mean, our ability to transform the world, our ability to imagine new possibilities, our ability to probe the perimeters of possibility, remix the present, to see into the adjacent possible, which Stephen Johnson refers to as a shadow future that hovers over the present state of things, a map of all the ways in which the present can reinvent itself. Creativity is just connecting things, as Steve Jobs says. And people who go into this creative zone, virtuosos of the imagination, those ecstatic technicians of the sacred spaces of human virtuosity, athletes when they get in the zone, scientists when they have their eureka moments, musicians, artists when they enter these flow states, jazz musicians when they're improvising, Charlie Mingus as he rhapsodizes through a tumbling thicket of ideas with such a sharp and vital alacrity that it can take the breath away. These flow states are finally starting to be understood thanks to neuroscience. The part of the brain responsible for self-editing literally goes dim. So there is a kind of scrambling of the self. There's a scrambling of like the superego that's trying to like correct everything you do and censor and filter what is otherwise collective subconscious, active imagination, so to speak. And I think that these artists, these athletes, when they go into the flow state, you know, I'm sure that they've had their 10,000 hours of practice in whatever their skill is, but then they go into that flow state. Perfection is not just about control, it's also about letting go. They shut down their lateral prefrontal cortex and they enter the realm of the numinous, the realm of the imaginal, the realm where the dream becomes real. You know, that space, that headspace of flow is the place where dreams are born.
In any creative medium, there is always an artist or artists that define a generation. SETH0 is such an artist, a name that has been constantly raised by the editing community and who is impossible to ignore. I believe SETH0 is a rare creator, not to take anything from others, but to recognise his growing potential as a Far Cry map editor. When creating an idea for a map, SETH0 enters what I believe is a creative flow state, a mental state of being completely present and fully immersed in a task is a strong contributor to creativity. When in flow, the creator and the universe become one. Outside distractions recede from consciousness and one's mind is fully open and attuned to the act of creating. Back in August of 2017, I was live streaming user-created content on Twitch when a few regular members suggested I play a map called Get My Boomstick, which is based off the Evil Dead movies. I myself have never watched them, but while playing I had a feeling something wasn't right. A dark path with devilish mocking laughter drew near as I walked closer to a dark blood-stained cabin. After playing this map, I took time to recollect my thoughts. I was thinking to myself, how is this even possible? It's just one cabin in the middle of the woods. So why did I enjoy this map so much? What SETH0 did was, he managed to change my perception. A linear map, very basic, but the gameplay was the most important factor, and all it took was to kill one enemy, and all hell broke loose. Shangri-La enemies rushed my position, where I was forced to chain take down several enemies at a time. As they descended on my position, I felt panic and excitement at the same time. And in my own personal experience, there has only ever been 3 other times I have ever felt like that while playing a game. Resident Evil 2, while trying to find my way around the precinct, the first Silent Hill, where you only have a lighter to show your way, and Dead Space, with its narrow corridors and the sounds of scuttling footsteps roaming the air vents above your head. I have played both versions of this map, one on the PlayStation 4 and the other on PC. With the help of Steve Botter, the PC version was modded with some changes and tweaks. If you are a true Far Cry fan, you should play SETH0's maps, because to me, they are like cult classics.
Around 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Aristotle, on pondering what the meaning and what the purpose of life was, said that it is to be happy. We all want to be happy. Now, more recently, we've looked at, well, what is happiness? what creates this feeling of happiness, this experience of happiness. And something's come up as part of that, which we call the flow state. When you're experiencing flow in what you're doing is when you're most likely to be happy. So how does flow work? Let me talk about it a little bit just now, describe it a little bit to you. So the first thing you know if you're in a flow state is when you're completely immersed in that activity. You're just enveloped by it. If you've ever had that experience of doing something you love, where you just lose sense of time, and suddenly what you thought was an hour is actually 6 hours because you've become so immersed in that thing. That's very often part of what we call a flow state. But another point is, it has to be an activity of your own choosing. It's something that we have to decide for ourselves. This is activity we want to do, and so we can kind of govern how we spend our time as well. We often experience flow states when we're doing activities which are neither too challenging, in which case we can often get burnout. So sometimes if you're doing activities which are so challenging, so mentally intense, that they can burn you out as well. So that's one danger. And then the other side is when you're doing those activities which are kind of underwhelming, which lead to boredom, which just aren't challenging you enough. So it's about finding somewhere in that kind of middle ground, some time, some activity which you are losing yourself in, which you have control over, which is neither going to burn you out or completely bore you. Another criteria for the flow state is something which there is a clear objective to why you're doing this thing. So it could be, if you're an artist and you're painting, you get completely lost in painting. It's because you have no objective to paint. You want to either you enjoy the process of painting, or you actually want the final thing at the end of it as well. If you're an entrepreneur, and if you lose yourself completely in strategizing and working out plans for this new business, there is an objective there as well. So you have to have an objective.
SETH0 is an editor who came from nowhere and whose name is on the lips of hardcore map editors across the Far Cry community. I was told SETH0 began his editing debut on Far Cry 4. Here, in MJ2 Vengeance, SETH0 has created an outstanding balance between building and gameplay, which is not easy to do. As a player, you begin the game inside what appears to be a hunting lodge, with weapon placements placed in a realistic fashion. As you leave the lodge, you are greeted with an incredible view, walking towards a small wooden pier overlooking a large lake and a wonderful looking fortress that dominates the background. This video is dedicated to a new star on the rise, and it would be interesting to see how he adapts to building multiplayer maps in Far Cry 5. From all of us in the editing community to you, SETH0, we salute you. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and please stay till the end. This is Kemet 1976, enjoy and thanks for watching.